Good morning, my Teaserking family. How's everybody today? Looks like all hell's going on out in the world. I will talk to you about a lot of videos. Gold right now, 30.16. Uh, the 10 o'clock hit. What else is new? Silver, 33.68. So silver's been moving up. Again, everybody's talking about silver, but it won't happen until the derivatives stop. So you're in a paper market, keeping the price down. Yes, the supply is very low and the demand's very high, and the price should be 10 times higher, but it won't until we stop with these derivatives, which are basically options, which are basically paper, which aren't really physical gold. It's totally illegal, and JP Morgan should all be thrown in jail, not just half of them, as Jamie Dimon ran away before he got put in jail. So gold 30.16. Let me take my Daria picture. And a lot of people just don't know what they're doing. I see all these videos, and it really and people really don't get it. Um, it all always goes back to Say's law, right? Supply creates demand. But when you do that, you've got to get the right price for it. So let's go to this card, the Cal Ripken, Mirror Gold, very limited. But I can't sell it. I got to find what the price is, and that's what I got to sell it for. I cannot sell it for twice what people want. I can't sell it for over. So let's just say $10,000. Who knows? But it's a Mirror Gold. It's in great condition. It's Cal Ripken. So let's say 10 grand. I have no idea. I can't, and that's what people are buying it for. That's the market. Well, I can't sell it for 20 grand. I can try, but I won't get anybody buying it because the market has said this is worth 10 grand. And that's what the value is what the market tells you what it is. So if I do tariffs, tariffs are more on manufactured goods. Unless I said, well, if you're trying to sell this from Canada to me, I'm going to add 20% tariff on you. What does that do to the economy? It kills it. I can't sell it because I either have to sell it for 8 and eat the tariff, or I got to sell it for the 10 and then pay 20% tariff, another $200 on tariff. You're cutting into my profit. You're cutting into what if the idea of tariff of free market is if there's a guy in Canada selling this for 8, I'll buy it from him because people in the US are doing $10,000, right? So if that's what's happening, why do I want to? I don't want to hurt the consumer. These tariffs that Trump's doing is hurting the consumer. Okay, I just saw Copenhagen, what's that? Norway, Denmark, whatever they are. I always get confused between Amsterdam and Copenhagen. One's Norway, one's, I don't know, the Netherlands, whatever. So they're putting American goods on their shelves with their local goods or European goods, and they're starring them. All it hurts is with the tariffs is the consumer, because I want to be able to buy from the cheapest place the same card. So I want to pay for Coca-Cola. I don't know if it's $2 coming from America and $3 in Russia, and I'm Russian. Well, I'll pay two for it. I don't care where it's made, and that's how we are here, right? We buy Chinese goods all the time because they're cheaper. The companies go to China and get the goods manufactured because the labor's cheaper. You can't have, it's called protectionism when it's just US and no free trade, right? The idea of free trade is you're getting the best price and the best quality, right? China's going to make the good because China's labor is cheaper than the US's labor. Nike makes all their shoes in China. They're still not affordable, but okay. But that's what you're looking at is you want to, it's a big market, the whole world. You go to the grocery store and you buy, or you go to the mall or wherever you go, you look for a car. I mean, I know I've been buying Camrys for years because they're much better than Ford and GM, and they're at a good price point. And I feel like I'm getting much more of a car than GM or Ford. And before you had GM and before you just had GM, Ford, and Chrysler, you had the oligopoly, which is just three. So a monopoly is just one, then an oligopoly is a few. So in this case, three. It's like the oils or OPEC is an oligopoly where there's 6 or 7 countries and they get together to set the price of oil and they set the demand of oil. Well, that's not what you want. You want free market there. You want all 7 competing amongst each other. So somebody woke up and said, that's not a good idea. Why don't we make it like we're one? And then they compete with Venezuela and US and whoever else has oil, Russia. So that's what you do, but it doesn't benefit anybody. What benefits is competition. It makes the quality better and the price lower. And by doing these sanctions, so here, how is it going to help Norway or whatever, Copenhagen, Denmark, by saying, well, don't buy American? Well, if it's okay, so they're different price on chocolate or whatever, or cake or tuna fish, whatever is selling at the grocery store, you want to look at it and buy the cheapest thing because you don't have a thing of money, right? You don't have a money tree. So therefore you can only afford what you can afford. And therefore you want to buy, like I talk about substitution all the time. Well, yeah, this steak's $20, this steak's 10. I'll buy the other steak, or eggs or tuna or veggies or whatever you're buying. You want to buy, you don't want to substitute quality too much. And then a lot of it's based on price. There's certain things like butter. I'll buy Land O'Lakes, even though it might be more expensive than the Kroger brand. But okay, I think, no, I want the Land O'Lakes. But if you have these coming from, it's like my chocolates. I looked yesterday or the day before, and my chocolates were like $4.69 for Lindt and the other Caravelli, and I'm like, no, I'm not buying them at $4.65. I'll go to Walmart and they have Swiss chocolate for $2.20. Hopefully they're not tariffed. But that's the problem by being protectionist. So if you only buy, if you only want U.S. and Germany or Switzerland, as they Swiss chocolates are much cheaper than American chocolates. So they're better quality and cheaper. Or a Rolex watch might be cheaper versus the other competition. But that's where you're at. You want to be free to choose. And as you have competition among countries to give you the best quality and the best price, because that's what competition is. That's what capitalism is. That's Austrian economics. And if you take that out with the tariffs, the advantage you had of buying, let's say, Swiss chocolate is gone because now there's this tariff on Swiss chocolate. And with the tariff, you're screwed, right? You can't do anything with the tariff. It kills the competitive advantage and hurts the consumer because I got to pay more if they mark the price up, which no, they might not. They might want to keep the price low to sell because if they make the price too high, now their costs go up, which hurts their profits. So maybe they raise the price, maybe they don't. But that hurts them in the business. If now, wait a minute, this isn't cheaper. The Swiss chocolate and American chocolate. Wait a minute, the Swiss chocolate's better and cheaper, but now it's the same price. Well, I might buy the American chocolate. I got to buy whatever's the best quality, and I factor in the price. But that's why you want free trade. You don't want these tariffs. The tariffs are going to kill the country. This country is so screwed right now. You've got England, you got Europe not wanting U.S. products. You've got Copenhagen saying, "Don't buy U.S." You've got the dollar being destroyed by BRICS and their BRICS, their payment systems out. Not the one backed by gold, but that's coming because nobody can trust these. The way the FX works, you don't even know what China versus India. You don't even know what the real values are. It's just a bullshit value. So I wouldn't be too comfortable if I'm China trading with India one-on-one or whatever the FX is there. That won't work. They need to get it out backed by gold, which they'll do soon. Is the U.S. Forcing our country to go broke to pay off the debt? Is that what Trump's doing? I'm not sure. Between Biden and Trump, it certainly seemed like they're trying to bankrupt the country. If you bankrupt the country, you're really fucked because you'll never get any money from anybody. Nobody would trust you, which isn't good. And these tariffs aren't going to save the day. You don't have any gold. Trump's that Dogecoin or whatever it is, that's broke. It came out at 50. Now it's at like 5. So he just scammed everybody. So you don't even know if you trust Trump. I mean, what he's doing, trying to buy Greenland and he's just pissing people off. These tariffs are only pissing people off. I think in his mind, this is how screwed up he is. He thinks that he just wants America to be by itself. He's forcing NATO goodbye. They don't even want to buy our weapons. I was watching a video where there's this new jet out, fighter jet for military, and there's a kill switch on it that we control. So they're worried about him hitting the kill switch. So now they got to go build all their own their F-35s, I think. Very dangerous time. So gold is the key, and JP Morgan's, it's down $4 today. They've got to cover. It's insanity. They have to cover this. Now, is it China? Is it really China keeping the price down so they can buy more? I find that hard to believe, but maybe. I don't buy it. I think it's the banks who don't want, if it goes too high, they got to cover all the derivatives, which they got to do by July 1st. Silver 33.66. So everybody's saying that, oh, look, it's going to go. It's not going until they break COMEX up. Then it'll go. Andy Scheckman had something on only buying U.S. gold and silver. You know how I say we'll buy the Cougaran or Make Believe Philharmonic. I think he's just dead wrong. I think an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold, as I've been saying. We're trying to buy gold. It doesn't matter who makes the gold. So I just totally 100% disagree with him on that. I don't know what he's looking at that would say only buy Eagles, except for he sells them and he gets more money on them. Just like the guy yesterday, Yankee Doodle Dandy guy or Silver Stacker guy, who says everybody wants to buy American. Well, is there some underlying tax or something that we don't know about on the foreign coins, which I have not heard? Like I said, if we have to, we sell them in Switzerland. But right now, I might get less, but I pay less for them. So as long as I pay $40 less for a Cougaran, and then when I go to sell it, I get $40 less. Well, I bought it for $40 less, and I'm fine. But I don't really get the problem because I'm buying gold. See, my concept's different than everybody else's. I'm buying an ounce of gold. They sell it in coins and bars. I'm going to buy the coins because I prefer putting it in a nice little coin thing and having my gold like that. I am not worried that my ounce of Cougaran, I know it's real. I'm not really worried about it. I know I'm going to get a little less now, but when the shit hits the fan and there is no gold out there, again, we're 5 steps ahead of everybody else. Keep that in mind. That's the key to it. And if you're 5 steps ahead, I see what's going to happen. The gold's going to be out. They're going to run out of supply. There's nothing they can do because gold is can't be inflated, can't be printed. One thing I saw about the blockchain, one of the worries that I saw about the gold-backed currency was counterfeiting. So you're making fake whatever you're going to use for it. I assume it's going to be this, and it's just going to say gold-backed currency. So I don't know how you counterfeit it. Maybe you can, but who cares? And then the coins, they can't really counterfeit it. Again, you take the magnet to it. If it doesn't stick, it's gold or it's silver. So they can't. If it sticks, I'm not buying it. So I don't really get that. I don't really see the problem with buying gold from other countries. It's gold. You're buying an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold. Why does it matter if it's a maple leaf or an eagle? They're not going to confiscate it because there's no gold here in America. It's all in BRICS, Russia and China mostly, and they go after the ETFs, but they don't think anybody has gold. They certainly would go after Bitcoin or bank accounts or something first, but Trump's not going to find $37 trillion in gold, much more in Bitcoin, much more in the stock market or in the ETFs where they actually have gold. So I just find all these things preposterous about owning, I don't know, Andy Scheckman. Oh, now I'd only own American gold. Yeah, because you're the salesman and you're trying to sell it, but that argument holds no water at all. There's no validity of if I buy, if I buy this card and it's not made in America, which I'm sure it is. Oh, I don't give a fuck. It's Cal Ripken Miracle or the Tom Brady. Where is this card? Was this card made in China? I don't care. I bought the card. Right. So if I got gold, do I care where they minted it? Why would I care where they minted it? I'm buying an ounce of gold because gold's 3,020 right now, or 3,020. Headed to 5,000 to 10,000. So do I really care about it? No. So once the comex gold's been blown up, that's why it's 3,000. I was watching some guy do a technical analysis on it, and I can't take these idiots. I'm going to sell gold because it's gone up so much. Now he doesn't even understand the driving factor in the gold price going up is BRICS. So why am I selling gold? Nobody's selling gold. Gold is not a stock. I love when these guys do technical analysis like gold's a stock. Gold's not a stock. What are you thinking? Gold is gold. It's very limited with a high demand. COMEX has been price fixing it, but you can see it's blowing up because they have to deliver the gold on the contract. So, as Eddie Murphy, to make it as clear as I can, when he did Risky Business, so they're sitting there and they're at the pit at the end of the movie, and they're they're selling the orange juice at 142 or roughly. There's a buyer there, right? The other guys are buying. I'm going to sell it, and all the guys come over to buy it. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it, and because they want to get out of the positions. Well, there they did it in paper, but what's happening now is when Eddie Murphy wants to sell it, the buyer wants. I'm going to buy it, but I want gold. I want physical gold, not the paper, and that's the difference. And that's what's happening. It's not happening in silver yet. So at what point, why would the gold go down? Give me one reason. Just because Comex can't push it down, because if they do, they have to have real physical gold to pay the guy who bought it. So Comex is selling it to drop the price, and then China's buying it. And then when they buy it, they say, but I don't want paper, I want physical gold. So I bought this contract, pay me in physical. There's not physical left to pay them, or it's very, very little. It's about to blow up. And this is the thing. And they keep saying, Russia's got 2,000 tons and China, and it's like, Jesus Christ, these guys are fucking idiots. I mean, China's got 60,000 tons. The public in China have another 10, 20,000. We're not really sure, roughly. We know Putin's got 25, 30,000 tons in a swimming pool. Yeah, I mean, and then India's coming up and Saudi Arabia. So there's not a lot. So why do you say 2,000 tons when it's 20? Well, it's because it's not all central bank. I'm only talking central banks. Well, I'm talking Russia gold, Putin, which is central banks, shadow banks, private banks, and Putin's own little stack. That's what I'm talking about. The same thing in China. It's not just the central banks buying the gold. Plus, they're digging it out of the ground and putting it into their safes. So there's a lot more of it. But so it's gone. Why would the price go down? At what point is the price going down? The only reason price would go down is there's no demand, but that's not happening. And with all the bullshit going on with tariffs, believe me, if the U.S. goes broke, which we already are, but they don't know it yet, then gold goes through the roof, because you don't have a choice. You have to have money, so you're going to buy gold. Except for people like Warren Buffett and Gates are just too stupid. They don't understand it. Buffet's a salesman. He sells life insurance or whatever. And Gates just stole somebody's idea on computers and mass market the individual computer, because nobody had one. It's like cell phones. Nobody had one. I mean, you all had landlines, and then we went to cell phones. So there's that first boost of everybody wanting it. Now sales are way down because I got one. I don't need to buy a new one every 6 months. So there was that. They were in on the initial impact. Does not make them geniuses. But anyway, they're not buying gold, and they might start buying once they realize what's happened, but good luck. I mean, where are you going to find it? The ETFs are selling gold. They don't, 200 to 1 ounce, 200 people own the same ounce. Well, how's that going to work? So I see some, gold going to go, or silver going to go, sell your gold to buy silver, which is what Prophet asked me. And you don't get out of gold to buy silver. You don't get out of gold to do anything. What you can do, if you're Luke or Prophet and you want to buy a house, you use gold for the house. You don't want to be, now is not the time to buy a house. The housing market is crashing. All foreigners are selling their houses, getting their money out and selling their stocks. That's what's happening. They want to get out of the US dollar. They're realizing that. And their only play is gold. And yeah, they'll realize it, but everybody will realize it too late. Oh, there's Bitcoin, or how about Trump's new coin that? Oh yeah, it was 60, now it's 5. Yeah, I probably don't want to buy that crap. And then the credibility of Trump. Now he's just a schemer. Oh, real quickly on Social Security, which I am on. Um, I don't have to do anything. All this is just basically bullshit. It's about businesses doing business with Social Security. But people like me who have been getting paid, I get a direct deposit the second Wednesday of each month. I have nothing to worry about. There is, I call them, I don't do anything with it. It's there. Um, she said it's just for business. I says, well, it's very misleading because they say you got to call by the 31st and they're all panicking. These people, oh my God, you got to call or you might lose. You might have to stand in line. No, they don't even understand it. It's not for people. It's not for people who are getting it, who have already went through the process. Here I am. This is me. And I verified myself. And so not a problem. It's more for the businesses, which they don't tell you in their little videos. So anyway, if you are collecting it, and if you're older and you've been collecting it, you get the direct deposits, you have nothing to worry about. It's not going anywhere. So you got these idiots on YouTube who want to create it. They want to get money or they want to get they're trying to get views, so they put in this bullshit story on Social Security, which knows everybody will react to it. Even I reacted to it. One other thing, like I collected unemployment, so I got my paycheck at Tenneco, right, and then I got unemployment. Unemployment does not go to the total to figure out Social Security. So if let's say you made 40,000 at Tenneco, and then you got Social Security or unemployment for $7,000, your total income is only 40, not 47. The unemployment is just separate. It's not considered income to go against Social Security. As far as I'm concerned, because I think the limit was 22,000. I didn't make that from Tenneco. Then I shouldn't be taxed on my Social Security. I don't think I think the whole idea is you don't pay taxes on it unless you make so much. And I made under the limit, so I shouldn't pay tax on Social Security. But when I do my tax return, it's weird. It's like charging me tax. And I'm like, why? No, I'm not paying tax on this. It's not. It's like it's not really income that you're making that you owe tax on. Social Security is a different animal. It shouldn't be. So I don't know what's going on with my tax program. That it's like I see I'm getting money back from Tenneco, and then I see add unemployment, which I do owe tax on. But then when I put in Social Security, it lowers the tax back, and I'm like, no, it shouldn't be lowering it. So I don't know what they're doing. I might have unemployment in the wrong section or something. I don't know. I have to figure that out, or I'm just going to do it manually because I shouldn't pay tax on the unemployment. Anyway, so don't worry if you're already collecting Social Security, you're fine. And I called and verified it the other day. So what the tariffs are doing to us is driving costs up. And what Trump's trying to do is protectionism, which is we don't want to do business with anyone else. We just want to be U.S. He thinks we lost our manufacturing to China. We gave it away. I was at Ford at the time, and they were all laughing. Oh, this is great. We don't have to pay the engineer $100,000. We just, we can pay $10,000 for an engineer in China versus $100,000 for an engineer here. That's what this was all about, was cheap labor. That's why we went to China, but the engineer said, hey, I can go work over there. And slowly they ended up making $100,000, the engineers. But they had a communist mindset, so they had no motivation and didn't do much. So the productivity sucked. Anyway, so here's what's happening. So then here comes Copenhagen saying, don't buy American goods. And then here comes the rest. So now you have Not only can we not sell our products, and there's a lot of agriculture and food to Europe, but they're not even buying ours. So we can't sell, which is going to hurt people manufacturing goods. Let's say Land O'Lakes butter. You know, we don't want butter in Copenhagen because it's American. Why are you punishing Land O'Lakes? They're it's a good butter. So this is what we can't sell, which is going to hurt because our farmers and our producers are look at the meat in China and we lost it. So it hurts when your sales go down, when they won't buy from you, and China's really doing a number on us. And then you have BRICS with the currency system saying, no, 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 we don't want the Swiss system. We want the SWIFT system. We have our own BRICS pay system. Well, that hurts you. It's like me. If I'm auctioning off the Brady card, I want as much money as I can get. I want a guy in Germany buying this card or a guy in China or Switzerland. I want it open to not just America. And everybody knows Tom Brady. So I could get a guy from Egypt buying this card. And that's the whole point. But if I take that out of the equation, now my audience is shrunk. I can only sell it to people in the US. Now, probably, okay, everybody in the US heard of Tom Brady, but why do I want to exclude half the market? It's the same thing with Teaserking. I sell the football picks. I want to sell it to, I get people, I was in Italy. You guys saw me in Italy, and there was people from Europe in class. I've done that before where I did Portugal or Barcelona, and I had people in class there, from Europe, from Asia, it was in their time zone. So I did have that. So I want them to be buyers too. I want to make them money also, not just US. But what I did find out in Berlin, they don't really follow American football. They follow soccer. So most of Europe's still following soccer, and the idiots in the NFL want to have European football where there's no demand. So again, it's you want as much customers as you can get. You don't want to cut off people, right? So now what happens if, I'm not working here anymore, unfortunately. I love the job, but Canadian club, it's Canadian, it's made in Windsor, Canada, Walkerville, Canada. We don't buy it anymore because it's Canadian or there's a big tariff on it. Well, if there's a big tariff on it, that would hurt my company, Canadian Club, because their costs would go up. It's going to affect my salary, my bonus. I might lose my job because they got to cut costs to go into the tariffs. So you're hurting the company, which indirectly hurts if I'm working in Detroit because they need people in America, then that hurts the company. So all these things are doing is just killing the company. It kills business. It kills the business gets hurt, the economy gets hurt. With BRICS, that they're doing a good job killing the dollar on their own. BRICS won't kill the dollar. The dollar's gone, so I don't know that BRICS will do that. All right, let's get back. Let's look at college basketball right now. And then we will go back to some videos. I got a lot of good different videos, economics mostly. All right. All right, let's take a look. We got Thursday's games. 1, 2, 3. We got 4 games tomorrow. We don't have lines. How am I supposed to pick games with no lines? I'll have to go to my other. Scores and odds. All right. No, not NCAA football. All right. BYU, Alabama. Alabama 5.5, 175. Then I'll go back to the other. I just need the lines. Florida goes against Maryland. Florida minus 6.5, 156. Oh, what a big number that Alabama game against BYU. Yeah, they score a lot. Arizona against Duke. We've got Duke minus 9.5, 153.5. And the last game, Arkansas, Texas Tech. Tech 5.5, 148.5. I don't know how that got in there. So Alabama, BYU's probably the 3-4 game. Then you got the SEC, Alabama, Florida, and then you got Duke in there. All right, so let's go back. All right, now we got the lines. Alabama 5.5, 175.5. Alabama's the 2 seed. Oh, okay. So Alabama's the 2 seed, BYU's the 6 seed, Florida's the 1 seed, Maryland's the 4, Duke's the 1 seed, Arizona's the 4, and Texas Tech's the 3 seed, and Arkansas is the 10 seed. They got what? Rick Pitino is the coach. So he was at Kentucky, and then he gets another job, right? I love it. Says it's at the Prudential Center. Like we know where that is. All right. Let's take a look. Let's break it down, as I like to say. Fucking Bama. They beat Auburn 93-91, Kentucky 99-70, lost to Florida 104-82. 90-81 to Robert Morris, 80-66 to St. Mary's. So Alabama hasn't played anybody in the tournament. They did beat Auburn and they lost to Florida. Both games were extremely high scoring, which is why we get a 175 in here. BYU beats Utah 85-74. No Cam Rising in that game either. They beat Iowa State 96-92. They lose to Houston with the great defense 74-54. They beat Virginia Commonwealth 80-71. And then Wisconsin's a 91-89 game. These boys are playing pretty high scoring games. Alabama 93 on Auburn, 99 on Kentucky. They give up 104 to Florida, and they get a 90 on Robert Morris. So they're scoring 90 points, and they're giving up 90 points. BYU, an 85, then a 96, then a 54 against Houston, 80 against Virginia Commonwealth and Wisconsin. They play a 91-89 game. They play a 180 game. They play a big game with Iowa State. This is 188, a 180. And then, so is Alabama got the defense? Houston has no. So we look at Alabama's defense. They give up 91 to Auburn, 70 to Kentucky, 104 to Florida, 81 to Robert Morris, and then a 66 to St. Mary's, where BYU gives up 74, 92, 74, 71, 89. So there are going to be points in the game, but is 175 a bit too much? Or do we take the 5.5? Interesting. BYU played Houston, but that was a great defensive team. This is not. Iowa State 92. Wisconsin 91-89 is probably pretty close. I don't know. It's such a big number to go over 175. You need a 90-90 game. Well, you need what they got against Wisconsin. But look at Alabama. Okay, it's hard because you can't really count those two. Florida was 186. Kentucky was 169, and then 184 with Auburn. So the two big guns who can score, they played really high scoring games with them. This is a high scoring game, but 175. Oh my God. I'm going to take BYU plus the 5.5, I think. I just find 175 such a big number, especially, this is a Sweet 16 game. I love how they got to name everything. It's the Elite Eight. It's the Final Four. It's the finals. Can't we just call it what it is? It's the third round. No. We can't call it the third round. So I don't, even if I saw injuries, I wouldn't know if the player's any good. I don't know the players. All right, so that's game number one. I do think it'll be high scoring, but I think 175, it's like a 75 in college football. It's such a high number that you can't, how am I going to go over? Even though I know both teams score, one team will start running the ball and kill my over. And so that's what I'm worried about here. So it'll be high scoring, but I don't know, 175, 150, this would be a lock. All right. Next game, Maryland and Florida. Florida is 6.5, 156. They're expecting another high scoring game. This is from the Chase Center, which really helps us. All right. Florida kills Missouri 95-81. Alabama 104-82. Tennessee 86-77. And then they have a tough time with Connecticut for some reason and beat Norfolk State. Why are they in the tournament? Why are they playing them? So here against Connecticut's a 149. Here the total is 156. Tennessee is a 163, 180 with Alabama and 176 with Missouri. Now, let's see Maryland. I think they are a pretty high-scoring team. They beat Northwestern 74-61, beat Illinois 88-65, lost to Michigan 81-80, 81-49 over my Grand Canyon. They're almost as good as Belmont. And then Colorado State 72-71 and 143, 156. Maryland against Illinois 88-65. That is 13, 153. That wouldn't get over. Michigan's a 161. That would. Can't count the Grand Canyon, and Colorado State 72-71. Say in trouble. Can Florida play defense? Probably. 77 on Tennessee, 75. I don't think this is an over. I think I'm going to go with Florida minus 6.5. Yeah, I know we had Florida against Connecticut. That does bother me. Maryland. It's hard because the Grand Canyon and Michigan was close. So when they did lose, it was to Michigan. So by one. Can they keep it? But Michigan is nowhere near Florida. Florida had the bad game against Connecticut. What do we see here? So is Florida really that good? Or do we go over? This is where it's confusing. They got 95 on Missouri, 104 on the Alabama, 86 on Tennessee, and then they only score 77 on Connecticut. So this is where how good, but Maryland's defense 81, a 65 to Illinois, 71. Hard to say. Who's knocking on my door. I don't think I can take Maryland in 6.5 here. The question is, do I go over? Because Florida can do it, and it's a 156. But they played a 152 with Connecticut, which doesn't get me there. Maryland, an 88, an 80, and an 81, and then they play Connecticut Colorado State 72. So I don't know about the over. As you get into tournament, you start choking a little bit more. So I'm going to go Florida. It's a toughie. We got Duke, Arizona. Duke is a 1 seed, Arizona a 4. Duke 33-3, and Arizona 24-12. Duke beats Georgia Tech 78-70, beats North Carolina 74-71, beats Louisville 73-62, Mount St. Mary's or Mount St. Helens 93-49, and Baylor they beat pretty good 89-66. So they're scoring a lot in the tournament. They're playing like an A team, 89-66 against Baylor's. Now Baylor's a good team. Arizona beats Kansas 88-77, beats Texas. Texas is in their tournament 86-80, loses to Houston 72-64. They win the Akron Open 93-65, and then Oregon, who's not that strong, 87-83. So we had the over in that game, the Oregon game, so we won that one. So they scored 88 on Kansas, 86 on Tech, and again, here you go, Houston, they got 64, and then Akron 93. And that's why you can't just take a technical analysis look at it and just take total points, because that will be a problem if you do that, because you can see playing Houston 64, not playing Houston. Looks like a 90, 88, 86, 93, 87. So they score 90 points a game if they don't play Houston. Again, the tough defense. Duke, the worst they did was gave up 71 to North Carolina, 62 to Louisville, 49 to Mount St. Helens, and Baylor 66. So you're not scoring on Duke. Duke's a very good team. The spread 9.5, 153. It's hard to say. Is Baylor a good offensive team? Louisville. So you beat a couple of good teams. I got a feeling it's going to be more like 72-64 against Houston than it's going to be 87-83 against Oregon. So 153. I'm going to just play Duke. I don't want to go against them. And I really don't think Arizona is the type of team that's going to beat them. Defensively, 77 and 80, a 65, a 72 to Houston, and an 83. So that was Akron 65. Otherwise, they're giving up 80 points. But I just don't think they're going to score a lot on Duke. Duke seems to be, pretty good. Texas Tech, the 3 seed against Arkansas, the 10 seed. With John Calipari, not Rick Pitino. This is also at the Chase Center, which we have no idea where the hell that's at. The Chase Center. Okay. Texas Tech beats Arizona State pretty good, 85-57. They beat Baylor 76-74. They lose to Arizona 86-80. They beat North Carolina Williamton 82-72 and Drake 77-64. Okay, you beat my Drakes. We had Drake in that game. What did we have? We had Drake plus 7.5. They beat him by 13, so I'm going to bet against them. No. They seem to score a lot, Texas Tech, just like the football team. They're an over. Defensively, Arizona State to 57, Baylor 74, Arizona 86, and even Williamton, North Carolina Wilmington 72, and Drake had 64 on him. That's 140. This is 148. Let's see what Arkansas beat Old Mississippi State 93-92, South Carolina 72-68. Old Miss, they lost 83-80. Kansas, they beat 79-72. So this is first round games. And then St. John's, a big win, 75-66. So they beat Kansas and they lost to Ole Miss by 3. And then they beat St. John's, who was decent. Do we got an over here? We got 93-72, 80, 79, 75. So they can score. They should give up points. Let's go over in Texas Tech game. So I can see Arkansas winning this game. I don't see a lot of deal. I think this is our over, and we got a good line at 148. I would have played Alabama over, but it's just 175. So I got to go BYU there. Florida and Duke, you just got the 1 seeds, and you just feel they're going to win, and off you go. And the way that Duke plays, you don't know if it's going to be. See, the A teams are really hard to play over unders because they're an A team. They've got a very good defense, so they can shut you down, which is what Duke did last game. And to play the over, you've got to have 2 kind of weak defenses and 2 very good offenses, right? Nobody's going to shut down each other. That's why you go with the over. But in a Duke situation, it's really hard to go over because they can just shut you down. They're going to score, so they're going to win, but you might not get an over. And we bet them under last time, and we bet them under 146, and they won by 30 points. And so that's the problem. So I'm going to just stick to that. So game 1, BYU plus the 5.5 against Alabama. Florida minus 6.5. Duke minus 9.5. Texas Tech over 148. Those are your 4 plays for Thursday. Hey, Prophet. So that's it. We can just preview Friday's games. But we don't have lines on these games yet. I can go back to the other, but we'll just look at it. We start with Ole Miss against Michigan State on the 7 o'clock game. That'll be a good game there. Kentucky, Tennessee. Oh, Kentucky's still alive. All right. Kentucky, Tennessee. Always a rivalry. We got Michigan and Auburn. We got the old Bo against Bo Jackson when he was at Auburn. I remember that game. I was playing poker with the coach. He was a coach of a high school team, Jim Harbaugh's roommate, and they played Bo Jackson in a Cotton Bowl, Sugar Bowl. And I remember, and we were talking, and he said we knew exactly how to defend Bo Jackson and that wishbone triple option, whatever. And the score was like 10-7, and I had a lock on it, and I won it. I think I locked it under, or I had Michigan in 8 or whatever. But so you got Bo Jackson against Coach Bo in a good game there. And then the last game, Houston, Purdue, that probably will be taking Houston there. I'm working on tomorrow's games right now. Well, I just gave them out. So, yeah. Hard to say. Well, but you're in the bracket, so what do you care about the games? You've already picked them in the bracket, or are you? Because you're not. You said you're not betting them individually, or am I missing something? Wow, Russell Wilson joining the New York Giants on a 1-year, $21 million deal. Oof. And they're still getting paid from Denver. Uh, I can't believe he's not. Pittsburgh must still have that stupid offensive coordinator who sucks. But going to the Giants, all right. Does Wilson actually make the Giants better? Well, of course he does because they don't have a quarterback. Danny DeVito or Winston. Um, so I don't know. We got to see if Rodgers says no to Pittsburgh, well, the Steelers quarterback will look like crap. Minnesota, I'm still shocked of. Probably yes, I am betting individually as well if I see something I like. Okay. Here's why Kirk Cousins staying in Atlanta makes sense. Makes no sense. Stephon Diggs agrees to a 3-year, $69 million contract with the Patriots. Well, they need receivers. Seems like a lot of money. 70s, what, 20, 25, about 24 million a year. That's all. It's inflated dollars. It doesn't really count. Uh, so we're still waiting for Aaron Rodgers. It looks like he'll go to Pittsburgh now. The NFL's 6 biggest quarterback questions. All right, Is Cam Ward worth the first overall pick? Absolutely not. Should the 49ers give Brock Purdy 60 million plus? Absolutely not. What should expectations be for JJ McCarthy? That he'll basically hand the ball off and sit on the bench. Who's going to start week 1 for the Browns? Do they even have a quarterback? Where does Kirk Cousins play in 2025? He's going back to Michigan State. Kirk Cousins could go, well, they signed him, so I don't know. He ain't going back to Minnesota. And if Rodgers doesn't go to Pitt, maybe he'll go to Pitt, but he sucks. Titans, Browns, Giants, and Steelers are quarterback thirsty in a the key is Dylan Gabriel not being looked at, and McLeod from Texas State not being looked at, and the guy from North Texas, who Willis, I think, who put up all the points. Those are the guys you should be after. The guy from Indiana, O'Rourke, who played for Ohio. Even Will Howard from Ohio State and Riley Leonard, they're not starters, but they're as good as Trevor Lawrence and these idiots. But it's just funny how it goes right to Cam Ward. Did we not watch him at Washington and saw that he sucked? I should take a look at that. Yeah, Cam Ward. So let's go Cam Ward 2 years ago. I have that in my trusty file, my stat file. All right, Cam Ward. All right. Cam Ward at Washington State. 13 games, 23 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, sacked 46 times. A shitload. That's getting with Cam Ward. Gets sacked a lot, can't read the defense. On Miami, he was better, but, look at him at Washington State. That's where you see him. Wasn't that good. All right. So that's what you got in sports. So Russell Wilson goes to the Giants. I don't understand that at all. Why would he go to the Giants? That's it for that. So let's go to our YouTuber things. So YouTube. I was watching this one thing on Stoic, and I'm going to jump to the back of it.
Are you actively trying to manifest things in this third dimension? If so, this is what you need.
I deal in the fifth dimension.
Closely. He can't stop coming back.
All right, some Stoic
Scarcity
things.
creates value. If you're always available, your presence loses weight. When she has to earn your time, she values it more. Women don't stay with the most logical choice. They stay with the choice that keeps their mind engaged. And if you can shape how she perceives you, you shape how she loves you. Sign 5. If she feels safe,
This is the key.
she'll never leave. After everything we've covered, the emotional highs, the mystery, the perception, there's one final truth about love that overrides everything else. At her core, a woman doesn't stay because of how much she loves you. She stays because she feels safe. Now, I'm not just talking about physical safety, that's a given. I'm talking about emotional safety, the deep subconscious certainty that when she's with you, she's protected, both from the outside world and from her own emotional chaos. Think about it like this. Women are naturally more emotionally fluid than men. Their emotions shift like the tide. One day, they're passionate and obsessed. The next, they're distant and unsure. This isn't manipulation, it's biology. Their brains process emotion differently, which means their feelings are always in motion. And in a world where her emotions are constantly shifting, the one thing she craves more than anything? A man who is unshakable. This is where the true power of Stoicism comes in. Most men think being emotionally strong means being distant or emotionless. That's wrong. The strongest men aren't cold. They're consistent. A woman feels safe when she knows you don't break under pressure. You don't lash out when things go wrong. You don't let her emotions dictate your emotions. Think about the most attractive men in history. The men women wrote love letters to, chased for years, never got over. They weren't just physically strong or rich. They had a presence, a deep, calm, steady energy that made a woman feel like nothing could shake them. That's the kind of man women stay loyal to. The man who, even when she's having one of her worst days, still carries himself with grace and control. Now, here's where most men screw up. When a woman gets emotional, they either try to fix her emotions, which makes her feel like she's not being heard, get emotional back, which makes her feel like she has to manage your feelings instead of her own. Both of these kill attraction. The right move? Stay calm. Stay present. Stay firm. If a woman tests you, throws a tantrum, or gets irrational, the worst thing you can do is panic. The best thing you can do, hold your ground and stay relaxed. This doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you show her, through your actions, that no matter what storm she's going through, you are the one constant she can rely on. And when a woman realizes that, she won't just love you, she won't just desire you, she'll never want to leave you. Because at the end of the day, the women who stay, the ones who never lose interest, never stray, never stop being in love, are the ones who have found a man who makes them feel safe in a way no other man can. This is Stoic Guide. If you found this valuable, hit that like button, subscribe,
We hit it.
and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on the strategies that put you ahead. Stay sharp, stay stoic, and let them chase.
How valuable was that? I found it extremely, like, Daria tells me that she feels safe with me, and I didn't know what that meant. I'm like, why? Because I help you with groceries, and now I get it. And it's like I found the what did I find? The Holy Grail. I mean, that's it. That's what women want. That they don't care. That's why I'll see a guy in the locker room and he's like looking at his muscles, and I go, they don't care about that. They only care about money. They don't even care about the money. I mean, they want you to have some money, but it's because they're emotional. They want to feel safe with you, which means if they're like when Alyssa gets yelled at by her mother or something, she comes to me and I'm stoic. I go, well, what happened? And I don't yell at her or get emotional. And that's what she likes about me. And that's what Daria must like about me. And I'm sure Jenna did, because when she's bitching at me, I'm just calm as hell. I was staying stoic, but that's what it means is you just stay cool and listen and help. And you be open and friendly, but you don't say a word. There's a little bit too much stoic. Like I was watching a thing on The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and Clint Eastwood, and the director said all he did was his emotions were either taking his hat off or putting his hat on. That's not stoic. It's not like you just shut up and you don't say much. It's also being calm and everything. So very interesting. All right, let's see what Egon's up to.
Nobody sees that the gold is not going up. An ounce of gold is buying the same thing for thousands of years. Prices of gold haven't gone up. It's just the value of paper money has gone down, and that's the world measures their wealth in currencies that are declining now at a very rapid rate. That's going to accelerate in coming years. We are seeing that in the real prices, not in the government fake inflation figures. The real prices are going up dramatically now. And this is why we come back to gold again. If you hold it outside the banking system in physical form, then it's your money. It's nobody else's liability.
You can join my free WhatsApp group. And
Thank you, Egon. So I agree that the dollar's losing value, but I disagree in the fact that gold price isn't going up, because I think it is, because I don't know there's a measure of, the dollar's not worth it anymore, gold goes up. I don't see the correlation. We know the dollar's going down, but you don't know by how much. And so when gold goes up, we know, my argument is that gold has been hammered down by the derivatives and options. And therefore the gold price is not real if you're pricing gold. Yes, the gold is 1 ounce of gold is still 1 ounce of gold, but because of, yes, the dollar losing value is helping the gold price, but the fact it's because of the derivative than that. So if I look at the Brady card, is this going up? Yes, this is going up because of demand. Again, these cards are based on demand. If there's no demand, they don't go up. But gold, again, still has to have demand to make the price go up, even though the dollar's going down. But look at silver. Silver's still sitting at $33 an ounce, even though the dollar's going down. Why isn't silver going up? Gotcha, Egon. Let's see, profit. So if Cleveland doesn't end up taking Sanders, Prime Jr., I think the Raiders may take him with the 6th overall pick. The Raiders should be taking Dylan Gabriel, not Prime Jr., but you have no idea. Cleveland, I don't know, but so what I would say is the Giants will trade the pick. Although the Giants could use a nice running back, they could take Gentry from Boise. Although they did that with Barkley, so I don't think they'll do that. And then they should pick up some nice defense. So the Giants get more defense. They got Neighbors. Now they got Russell Wilson. They need a running back. So we'll see. I guess if I was the Giants, I would trade the pick because I don't need the quarterback now. And then I could get McLeod or the guy from North Texas or Gabriel in the second round because I still need a quarterback next year because Russell Wilson's on a 1-year contract. I don't know what happened at Pitt. There must have been a falling out. Russell Wilson's better than what they're going to have. And we'll see. Minnesota's making a huge mistake with McCarthy. A, he's not very good anyway. B, he's injured. So is he healthy? C, you don't even know if he's any good. So A was he's not really good at Michigan. B, being injured, and then C, is he going to be any good in the NFL? You have no idea. He could be another Kirk Cousins. He throws a lot of interceptions. He could be another whatchamacallit, Trey Lance or Garoppolo. He could be one of those. So I don't know. I would have taken Aaron Rodgers for 2 years and have him kind of coach McCarthy or somebody coach McCarthy. Get Joe Montana in there to coach him and see if he's any good. All right, a little brics here. Brics hits back at Trump. BRICS shocks the U.S. unexpectedly, quitting the SWIFT system. So they're coming out with their global system. They will come out with their gold-backed system soon. But right now, this is just a trade system. So let's take a look at this.
I'm probably the only person online who shares every single one of my trades completely for free.
Anybody
Since
making
its
trades we
inception
don't
in
care about.
1944, the World Bank has followed a controversial and often contentious tradition. Its leadership has always been chosen from the United States. From its first president, Eugene Meyer, to the current leader, Ajay Banga, this unspoken rule has been steadfast, reinforcing the United States' powerful grip on the institution. As the largest stakeholder, the U.S. influence is undeniable, but it comes at a cost. The decisions made by the World Bank are often shaped by a neoliberal agenda, a strategy favored by Western nations, particularly the US and Europe. This strategy, heavily criticized for imposing austerity measures and privatization, frequently exacerbates inequality, undermining sustainable development and deepening the struggles of nations in the global South. For these countries, the lack of leadership diversity within the World Bank is a glaring issue. The absence of voices that reflect their realities, experiences, and perspectives fosters the perception that the World Bank serves as a Western tool, rather than a truly global institution. Decisions made by the World Bank often prioritize policies that favor multinational corporations, such as resource extraction and trade liberalization, which benefit a select few but leave local communities grappling with the consequences. Now, let's shift our focus to the International Monetary Fund, IMF, another cornerstone of the global financial system. Like the World Bank, the IMF's leadership has been dominated by Western powers since its establishment in 1944. Europeans have continuously held the position of managing director, from Camille Gut of Belgium to the current Christine Lagarde of France, and now Kristalina Georgieva of Bulgaria. This unbroken European dominance highlights the IMF's long-standing alignment with the economic interests of Europe and the West. The IMF's policies, rooted in fiscal conservatism, austerity, privatization, and liberalization, are often imposed on struggling economies in the global south. These measures, while designed to stabilize macroeconomics, frequently lead to devastating social consequences, increased poverty, higher unemployment, and a loss of national autonomy. Despite its global mission, the IMF's leadership does not reflect the diverse membership it purports to represent, especially those nations most affected by its policies. The alliance between the US and Europe in both the IMF and World Bank consolidates immense decision-making power within the Western Bloc. This reality has sparked outrage from the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, which have repeatedly called for a restructuring of these global financial institutions. They demand reforms that would ensure more accurate representation of emerging economies and address the needs of the global south, which remain largely neglected under the current regime. At the 6th BRICS Summit in 2014, leaders expressed their dissatisfaction with the failure to implement the IMF reforms agreed upon in 2010, decrying the delay as a blow to the institution's legitimacy and effectiveness. In 2024, Russian Finance Minister Anton Siluanov went as far as to declare that the IMF and the World Bank were failing to fulfill their intended roles and were, in fact, working against the interests of BRICS countries. He urged the creation of new institutions designed to serve the specific needs of emerging economies. Adding fuel to the fire, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, at the 16th BRICS Summit in Kazan, Russia, described the New Development Bank, NDB, as an alternative to the IMF and World Bank, which he condemned as failing to address the needs of the global south. He emphasized the critical importance of developing alternative financial systems to reduce reliance on Western-dominated mechanisms. However, the call for reform is not just about structural change within these institutions. It's a battle for control over global financial systems, and the stakes could not be higher. A new order is emerging, one in which the dominance of Western institutions may be challenged by the growing power and influence of the global south. But this confrontation is far from theoretical. The rhetoric from BRICS leaders is clear, and tensions are mounting. The West, however, isn't backing down. The US is particularly sensitive to these challenges. Amidst this global tug-of-war, President Donald Trump's administration presented a dramatic and controversial stance, advocating for the US to withdraw from both the IMF and World Bank, a move that would potentially free up $770 billion for domestic use, but risk undermining the US's global economic clout. Robert Wade, a professor of global political economy at the London School of Economics, has warned that such a withdrawal could destabilize the global financial system. By framing the US as a victim of these organizations, Trump would be playing a dangerous game, one that could erode the soft power the US has wielded for decades. Martin Muley, a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, raised another alarming point: a renewed push from the US to politicize.
We don't care about the points. The point is that BRICS is competing now, and that's hurting the dollar because you've been doing things as a monopoly, the US, which doesn't work in a competitive marketplace. So we will see what's going on there, but let's see. Let's check this one out.
What if we told you that the US dollar, the cornerstone of global finance for decades, might be on the brink of collapse? In 2025, the unthinkable is happening. A new economic war is brewing, one that pits the US against a growing alliance of nations determined to dethrone the greenback. And guess who's leading the charge? China. As tensions escalate between the West and the global South, China is stepping up, taking control of BRICS, and setting the stage for a trade war with the US. This isn't just a trade dispute. It's a fight for the future of the world's economy. So, how did we get here? And what happens next? Let's find out. Let's rewind for a second. It's November 2024, and the world is holding its breath as Donald Trump secures his victory in the US presidential election. His return to power isn't just a political event. It marks the beginning of a seismic shift in global relations. As the dust settles from the campaign, Trump wastes no time making one thing crystal clear. His administration has set its sights on BRICS. The US, in all its economic might, has found a new adversary. The target is clear: BRICS. Trump's strategy is unapologetically aggressive. To curb the growing economic power of the bloc, he threatens to impose an eye-watering 150% tariff on BRICS goods. But this conflict goes far beyond simple trade barriers. It's a high-stakes battle for global economic dominance. The US is not just targeting trade imbalances, it's defending its most valuable asset, the US dollar. For
It's not worth
decades,
anything.
the dollar has been the pillar of global finance, and Trump's bold move underscores how fiercely the US will fight to preserve its unrivaled financial power in the face of a rapid.
So the U.S.'s biggest asset is worthless. What does that tell you? That's big problems. But so you can see BRICS is fighting it. He wants to tariff all the BRICS countries. How's that going to work? Not very good. Like I said, it hurts the consumers because either the price goes up directly or indirectly. In other words, it might not go up in certain things, but then other people will get laid off and then sales will drop and you'll have this massive depression. So I don't know who he's kidding, but is he trying to bankrupt the country? It's already bankrupt, so he doesn't have to do anything. Just watch what it's doing. Anyway, so China's just, let's look a few more minutes, but
Rising
a lot of
alternative
BRICS stuff
economic
going on
force.
today.
The US has enjoyed the luxury of dollar dominance, but in 2025, things are changing. BRICS countries, led by China, are pushing for a bold shift toward de-dollarization, and the US is doing everything in its power to prevent that from happening. The battle lines have been drawn, but as the US prepares for war, China is already making its move. China's response to this escalating tension has been nothing short of strategic brilliance. Where the US seeks to maintain its dominance through tariffs and economic pressure, China has chosen a path of leadership and cooperation. Under the leadership of President Xi Jinping, China has taken a clear stance. It will not allow the US to dictate the global economic future. Instead, China is stepping into a leadership role within BRICS, guiding the bloc into a new era of multilateral cooperation. With a strategic vision, China is reshaping the future of global economic relations, fostering stronger alliances and pushing for a more interconnected, balanced global system. By taking the reins, China is not just defending its position, it's actively driving BRICS towards a future where power is shared and diversified, challenging traditional power structures and paving the way for a new global economic order. This is a pivotal moment where China's influence is set to redefine the rules of the game. Amid escalating tensions between the...
So what's happening is China's trading directly with Brazil without switching to US dollars. Like I say, before, if China wanted to trade with Switzerland, they would have to take the Chinese, turn them into US dollars, take the US dollars to buy the Swiss franc. Now they go right to Switzerland and buy it, or right to India, right to Brazil, and Russia's going right to Iran. So these countries are just trading amongst each other, and they're up to 40 countries, and they're not using the US dollar at all, which is creating massive inflation for us because the dollars are printed. And now they're all coming back, and that's inflationary. Like I say, they printed about $150 trillion. A lot of it was in this FX, but that's all coming home. The other thing is a lot of the foreigners are pulling the money out of the stock market and out of the US dollars now. So they're doing that. I can't remember which video had that one, but it was one of them. All right, let's see. So here's Thomas Sowell. This is very good. Why Saudi Arabia will collapse. And it's a short one. And it's
I'm probably
mostly
the only person online
because
who
they
shares
don't.
every single one of my trades completely for free.
Shut the fuck up already.
There is a fundamental misunderstanding that has persisted throughout history, a belief that wealth is something that can simply be possessed rather than something that must be produced. We see this same fallacy in the way people talk about oil-rich nations like Saudi Arabia. People assume that because Saudi Arabia sits on vast reserves of oil, its wealth is somehow guaranteed. But history shows us that nations with an abundance of physical resources do not necessarily remain prosperous, and more often than not, their wealth evaporates the moment the resource dries up or becomes irrelevant. This confusion between physical wealth and human capital has led to the downfall of entire civilizations. A prime example of this is Spain during the gold era. After the Spanish conquistadors looted gold and silver from the New World, Spain became one of the richest countries in Europe. But what happened? Instead of using that wealth to develop industries, foster innovation, or invest in education, Spain squandered it on lavish spending, endless wars, and a bloated aristocracy that saw labor as beneath them. The result, the Spanish economy collapsed, and Spain, once a dominant world power, became a second-rate nation struggling to keep up with industrialized Europe. Why? Because they never developed the human capital necessary to sustain wealth once the gold stopped flowing.
So basically, you have this asset, oil, gold, whatever, and it's gonna run out. So you have to use the power and the wealth that you have in the gold or the oil, use it to create things, computers, cell phones, food, other industries that will be there when the oil runs out or the gold runs out. And that's what Spain did. That's how you had all this gold, and so they didn't do anything. Then they do government handouts. This is Saudi Arabia's problem. This is also Venezuela's problem, Zimbabwe's problem. So they would just hand out the money to the people, so the people didn't work. That's what's happening here, right? So the people don't work, they don't develop their skill set, and they get the free money from the government, but they don't have any skills. You need to develop your skills. And then once you develop them, then if the gold runs out or the oil runs out, you have, well, we'll have IT and we'll have other manufacturer will make cars or whatever. That's how we counter the gold and the oil. Although it's still nice to have the gold and the oil, and you got to be careful. You shouldn't run out of gold, but you want to have wars. But that's the key to it, is making sure that you develop. And that's Adam. That's right down to Adam Smith. Everything comes back to Adam Smith, where he would come up with division of labor. You hammer, you paint, you do this, somebody else does that. It's a team. The key was his example was pencils. You It would be very hard to make a pencil by yourself because you got to get the lead that writes, you got to get the wood, the eraser, and everything. So there's 10 different parts, and so you need 10 different people, and that's the skill you have to develop. It's best when they did the one online about Adam Smith with the guy on the boat, and he it's automated, and then the different boxes carry different types of food, clothes, different type of things, materials that they're shipped. And that was what the key was, that the division of labor you could do on the boat as opposed to one guy trying to do everything. Very, very interesting. All right. A little more of Mr.
Now,
Soul.
if that lesson sounds familiar, it should. The same pattern is playing out in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's entire economy is dependent on a single commodity, oil. More than 70% of its revenue comes from oil exports. But oil is a finite resource, and more importantly, technology is making it less valuable. Countries around the world are moving toward renewable energy and alternative fuels. When that
I don't know about that.
reaches critical mass, what will Saudi Arabia have left? Unlike Japan, South Korea, or Singapore, nations that built their prosperity on skilled labor, innovation, and entrepreneurship, Saudi Arabia has not developed the necessary human capital to replace its oil revenue. Saudi Arabia's problem is deeper than just oil dependence. It has an economic structure that discourages productivity. The majority of its citizens do not work in the private sector. Instead, the government hands out benefits, subsidies, and artificial jobs, sustaining a population that contributes very little to actual production. The real work is done by millions of foreign laborers, Folians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Filipinos, who do everything from construction to service jobs. The native Saudi population remains largely disconnected from real economic output. And Saudi Arabia isn't alone in this. Qatar, Kuwait, the UAE, all these Gulf states suffer from the same problem. In Qatar, for example, Qataris are a minority in their own country. The entire economy runs on imported labor, while the native population enjoys government handouts. But when you have a country where most people don't actually produce anything, you have a ticking time bomb. The moment the resource wealth declines, the system collapses. Saudi Arabia is making a classic mistake, assuming that wealth can simply be distributed rather than created. We have seen this experiment before. Take Uganda in the 1970s. The country had a thriving economy, largely thanks to Gujarati Indian entrepreneurs who built businesses and trade networks. But dictator Idi Amin decided that these Indian businessmen were exploiting the country, a sentiment that should sound familiar to anyone who listens to modern wealth redistribution advocates. So he confiscated their businesses and expelled them. The result? The Ugandan economy collapsed overnight. Shops were empty, trade halted, and the country plunged into economic ruin. Meanwhile, the expelled Indians rebuilt their businesses elsewhere and thrived. Or consider Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe. White farmers were producing more than 70% of the country's food. But Mugabe decided they were exploiting Zimbabweans and seized their land. What happened? Zimbabwe, once known as the breadbasket of Africa, became a country of food shortages, hyperinflation, and mass poverty. The white farmers, meanwhile, left and found success elsewhere. The lesson? Wealth is not in physical assets. It is in the ability to generate wealth. Confiscation always leads to economic ruin. This is precisely why you cannot tax or confiscate your way to prosperity. Saudi Arabia has essentially made the same mistake, assuming that wealth can be maintained without human capital development. The ruling elite hands out subsidies to maintain control, just as leaders in Uganda and Zimbabwe tried to do. But the moment oil revenues decline, those subsidies become unsustainable. What happens when people expect free benefits, but the money runs out? Civil unrest, economic collapse, political instability.
And that's what's happening here. That's why I talk about division of labor and building your skill set. It's all about your wealth is based on your skill set. The better your skill set, the more money you can make, and you're going to keep your job. If you just rely on government handouts, then you don't develop your skills. You just take the money and you sit back and relax. I mean, look at the skill set. I was picking football games that I have. Forget the economics, which is a huge skill set right here. But I studied it and studied it over years and years to develop it. But if I was just getting a government handout, here's $50,000 a year, I wouldn't have done. There would have been no demand for me to do it. Why develop that skill? So that's why I'm always pushing to develop your skill set. That's the key to everything. That's the key to your wealth, and it's the key to a strong country. I don't consider Social Security a government handout because I paid into it. So I'm just getting my money back or trying to get it back. That's what I'm looking at. But hold on a second. I changed the password. Sorry about that. Alrighty. But that's the key to everything. There's one he does on education and how you're not getting value for it. You're getting bad classes. It costs a lot. You're in huge debt, but you're not developing your skill. So really, school is it's a debt trap. Not, when I went to school, I got my master's, and then it allowed me to develop that skill, which allowed me to make more money. But if I were to do it now, it would cost me so much, I would never climb out of the hole. And I don't know how these people are doing it. And then can you even get a job? And is this the master's? Does it teach you? Like, I know Austrian economics. You don't see me looking at my notes too often. If I do, it's just for clarification or something. But basically, I know it all. right? I know gold and silver without even looking at anything. I know that's what's going to happen. That's why I get frustrated with these Andy Scheckman guys and these other guys. And so that's the key. But that's what the education brought me, was to develop that skill. And then you can hear me now on this, developing the skill, and mostly listening to all these guys who don't know what they're talking about. I can read it and say, this guy doesn't know anything. But most of you guys couldn't, so you would just follow them and lose all your money. So I'm trying to prevent that. All right, that's Thomas Sowell. But all these countries that just give the handouts to get votes and rely on oil, but then when the oil runs out, they're fucked. And that's Zimbabwe, Saudi Arabia. Then we'll look at our tariffs bad. We know they're bad, but let's look at this one.
Through my online store alone, we've sold over $500,000 worth of spices. That's so crazy.
Trade. What does that term taken to mean? It's taken to mean that we export more than we import. But from the point of view of our well-being, that's an unfavorable balance. That means we're sending out more goods and getting fewer in. Each of you in your private household would know better than that. You don't regard it as a favorable balance when you have to send out more goods to get less coming in. It's favorable when you can get more by sending out less.
Segment 4, trade. Lots of questions about trade, China, the rest of the world. Here's from a Ricochet member who calls herself Midget Faded Rattlesnake. If you read her post, she's highly intelligent and very amusing. I don't know where the name comes from, but here's the question. How much should people really worry about the balance of trade?
Somewhat less than you worry about being struck by lightning.
Okay, here's a statistic I heard just the other day. Here's how many cars Korea sells in the United States every year. 500,000. Here's how many cars we sell in Korea every year. 5,000. Why shouldn't we be worried about that imbalance?
I'm not sure why we should. Obviously, if the Americans were Americans forced at gunpoint to buy these cars from Korea?
Clearly not. No. So no problem.
I don't see why third parties should concern themselves about it.
Okay, you've done it again. You've batted away the question so easily that it leaves me wondering what the argument is on the other side.
So it's a free market. So if we choose to buy Korean cars or Japanese cars or German cars, and they don't buy ours, who cares? We shouldn't care because we have the bigger market. So the US cars are going to be bought here, but we still buy Germans, Japanese, Korean. I like Camry, right? That's the choice. It's free. The problem in these other countries are the tariffs that make our cars more expensive, so people don't buy them, because in Japan, it's cheaper to buy a Japanese car than an American car, probably in Germany or Europe also. There's probably some tariffs on it, but we don't care about that. That's part of the free market system, right? If you can sell the product at this price, you sell it. So we shouldn't be selling to them. That's all. But it's not about being equal. If we buy 500,000 Korean cars, doesn't mean Korea should buy 500,000 of ours. What kind of argument is that? That's retarded. It's not about equal. Free trade is not about equal. It's about free. I send goods to China, they buy them. If they don't, like, look at all the beef. China's buying $1 billion, like $1.5 billion worth of our beef. Do we buy 1.5 billion beef from China? No. We're probably eating American beef. So who cares? Right. So we pick it up there. So they might not buy our cars, but they're buying our meat, or they're buying, they're buying our IT and our computers and stuff like that. So there's other goods that they buy, and those are the ones we sell to them. But again, we don't buy a $1.6 billion of steaks from China, nor should we. It's got nothing to do with it. We sell to countries that need our goods. And if they don't want to buy our cars, but we buy theirs, fine. We're perfectly happy buying a Mercedes or buying a Toyota or buying a Corvette or whatever the hell Ford sells, the Mustang. We're fine. As long as we have something to buy, we don't care. And it's not supposed to be even that we buy exactly what they buy. That's a stupid argument. All right.
Why do some people worry about the trade balance then?
Oh, because the argument that they're making is that this is sending American jobs abroad. Now, unfortunately, this argument was made some years ago in 1930. 1,000 economists took out full-page ads across the country saying, do not put up international trade restrictions. It will not increase employment. It will just set off a new round of retaliation. It was one of those wonderful things that media like. It was a bipartisan effort. The Democratic Congress wanted to pass the Small-Hawley tariffs, and the Republican president signed it into law. And it was one of the biggest disasters in the history of the country. At the time this law, people think that the reason for the high unemployment in the 30s was because the stock market crashed.
Right.
After the stock market crashed, unemployment peaked at 9% for 1 month and started downward. It was down to 6.3% before the federal government intervened. It was only after the federal government intervened that the downward movement reversed itself and shot all up over a few years to 25%. So the people who are out there just dying for the government to come in with their solution, I don't know if they have studied history or not.
What's the correct way? Here I'm interested in the way to think about the problem. China. There are constant predictions that soon, maybe within a decade or so, the Chinese economy will become as big as ours. So, bigger economy than ours, that sounds in some way something about which we ought to be nervous. On the other hand, there are 14 times as many Chinese as Americans. So when their economy becomes as big as ours, it only means that their per capita GDP will be 1/14 that of ours. So should we be worried about what the growth of China?
The Chinese should be worried as to why their economy is so far behind that of the United States.
All right.
Although I must say their economy is enormously better than it was in the days of Mao.
Right.
And is so as a result of putting in more market, allowing more freedom in the market, just as in the past couple of years, we're trying to reduce the freedom of the market.
Well, okay, so let me take the United States out of it for a second. At the end of the Cold War, Russia, as we were allowed to call it once again, the Soviet Union ceased to exist. Russia embraced democracy pretty rigorously under Boris Yeltsin. True election to the Duma and so forth, and suffered an economic collapse from which they have never recovered. China embraces the markets to a limited extent, but still a very extensive extent, but refuses to touch democracy, refuses to permit political freedoms, and experiences this period of some 2 decades now of economic growth, unparalleled really for a country of that size anywhere at any point in human history. So what does that tell us about the connection between democracy and economic growth? We Americans like to talk about democratic capitalism as though the two are somehow intertwined. Are they not?
Well, China has proven that they're not inevitably so. There are a lot of things that you have to make an economy work. First of all, you have to allow the market to work. And in Russia, when the new capitalists were simply the old communists who had taken over the industries, you didn't have capitalism in the real sense of the word. You had what some have called crony capitalism, and you had people who disappear off the streets when they, get in the way of what the government wants to do. So it's really, I think, sub-rosa fascism. Fascism being different from socialism in that the private ownership is there, but the government tells people what to do.
And what about China? Do you believe that they can continue to sustain high economic growth rates without some semblance of democracy, without beginning to open up political freedoms? Can they?
I think they are doing some of that, and particularly as you get larger and larger numbers of people who are successful in the private marketplace and who then begin to have influence, and as the old guard dies out, I think, but it'll be a very slow process. I mean, I wouldn't hold a stopwatch on it.
All right. From China to Europe. Here in the United States, nobody would start talking about the threat to the dollar as a currency if Texas experiences a high growth rate and Michigan experiences high unemployment and manufacturing decline. Nobody talks about that as a threat. But in Europe, we see that the troubles in Greece and Ireland and now Spain and Portugal are being talked about as a threat to the euro. Why?
Because they're trying to create something that a country would create in a situation where you have sovereign states. And so you can't have a common currency and then have each government go off on its own little tangent, because they'll end up in situations where that common currency is threatened because of what someone did in Greece or Spain.
So do you consider the euro untenable over the longer term?
I don't know, but because people can always change their policies, and personally, I never thought it was such a great idea.
What would you have done instead? Just permit
what they've done for centuries.
All right.
Have each, have
Deutschmark, Lira.
That's it.
All right.
This carries over to the terminology we use. I've already referred to the misleading terminology of protection. But when people talk about a favorable balance of trade, what does that term taken to mean? It's taken to mean that we export more than we import. But from the point of view of our well-being, that's an unfavorable balance. That means we're sending out more goods and getting fewer in. Each of you in your private household would know better than that. You don't regard it as a favorable balance when you have to send out more goods to get less coming in. It's favorable when you can get more.
I don't know what he's talking about. It's like the beef, you're getting money back for the goods. So I don't care if I send it all out. I want goods coming in if they're cheaper and more competitive. So I want a competitive market. So if China's sending me things that are just as good quality wise and cheaper, yeah, I want that coming in. But if I send out beef to China and they don't send me any, but I'm getting all this money, I'm perfectly fine with that. So I'm not following Milton Friedman here.
Sending out less.
It's not about that.
This tendency to concentrate on the productive side of our lives and to neglect the side of consumption is reinforced by the fact that even for the productive side of our lives, the visible effects of tariffs are good. The invisible effects of tariffs are bad, even on the productive side. I've already referred to the steel case. It's perfectly clear that if you restrict the imports of steel, there are some workers in the steel industry who will have jobs they otherwise would not have. The beneficial effects for them of a tariff is perfectly clear. But if we import less steel, foreigners earn fewer dollars. They have fewer dollars to spend in this country. There are people around the country who will not have jobs, not have productive jobs, because exports do not develop. Here, I should not have to spell this out in great detail here in Kansas. This is a great agricultural state. Agriculture is one of our main, agricultural products are one of our main exports. The harmful effects of steel imports are to reduce jobs in agriculture. But that's invisible. The people who might have been producing goods to sell abroad don't know they might have had that job. So, out of sight, out of mind. And as a result, on both the side of consumption and the side of producers, you have the concentrated special interest versus the diffuse general interest.
Tariffs are bad. Then we have another BRICS one.
Homeowners over 55, why are you still paying full price for home insurance?
Shut up.
That have formed the bedrock of the post-World War II financial order. This potential exodus from key Bretton Woods institutions would mark a historic rupture in global financial governance and solidify the emergence
this is the
of a
one we started
parallel
watching.
international financial system. BRICS leaders have increasingly criticized these institutions for what they perceive as an inherent bias favoring Western interests.
Yeah, I think it's the first one. So basically, the tariffs are getting troubled. So here's one, what I was talking about. Denmark leads charge to boycott U.S. goods in Europe.
New apps coming out allowing people to scan products and determine if they're European. Then the previous story showed you how Europe is scared, but many in the continent are also angry. I'm talking about ordinary people, your average Joe, or I suppose your average Johan. Either way, ordinary Europeans are angry, and not just at Russia, but increasingly also at America. And this is thanks to US President Donald Trump. Trump's stance on Ukraine has upset some Europeans. They feel it's a betrayal of Western values to support Putin over Zelensky. And that's one reason for the anger, but perhaps the bigger reason is Trump's trade war. Donald Trump has threatened to impose tariffs on everyone. He has already done it to Canada and Mexico. He has tariffed steel and aluminium from everywhere, but things are about to get worse. New tariffs are set to arrive on the 2nd of April, and it's likely that no one will be spared, no matter how closely they're linked to the US. They will face American tariffs, and this has hurt the Europeans, who see the tariffs as a betrayal of the Western alliance. Ordinary people, of course, cannot influence geopolitics, not directly at least, but they can exercise the power of their wallets. An average person can still make their frustration felt by choosing to boycott American goods. And that's exactly what the Europeans seem to be doing. They're boycotting American brands or products made in the US, and leading the charge are the Nordic countries. Denmark, of course, right up front. The Danes are especially angry because of Trump's tariffs, his approach to Ukraine, and Greenland. Greenland, as you would know, is an autonomous Danish territory, but Trump wants to take it over. This has angered ordinary Danish citizens, so they are finding ways to push back. Denmark's biggest supermarket chain is helping with the boycott. It has come up with a simple identification system, a black star on its price tags. The star means that a product is made in Europe. It's as simple as that. The supermarket still stocks American goods. They haven't been removed, but the star system makes boycotting US goods easier. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. You have new apps coming out allowing people to scan products and determine if they're European. Then there are online communities, Facebook groups with tens of thousands of members, all discussing ways to boycott the US. And I know it is ironic, boycotting American goods on Facebook, which is an American social media giant. The groups know this too. But they say nothing else gives them as much reach. This is how the boycott movement is growing in Europe. It follows a similar movement in Canada.
There's an enormous Buy Canada, enormous Buy Local movement on the go. It's not a big marketing company coming up with an idea. It's grassroots, it's organic, it's from Canadians themselves, and that's what we have to grasp is how big this movement is. It's kind of swept across the country overnight by itself.
The movement seems to be sweeping across Europe as well, and it seems to have swept away one brand in particular, Tesla. These days, Tesla CEO Elon Musk is synonymous with Trump because he funded Trump's election campaign, and now he's a top advisor to the US president. So obviously, Europeans are targeting Musk too. Tesla sales in Europe were down by 45% in January, 45% compared to a year ago. Europeans are switching to local alternatives, even if they're more expensive. And sometimes the anti-Tesla sentiment has turned violent. The cars have even been set on fire. All of this shows European anger. It would have been unthinkable just a few months ago, this level of anger against the United States of America. But this is the reality now, and things may get worse on April 2nd when the new batch of Trump tariffs come into effect. Do you think that Ukraine is at its weakest position?
This war is not about Ukraine.
Do you believe that your president was insulted? Yes or no question. Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.
Diplomacy will work?
Yes.
Do you think Russia will give up the territory if there is no ceasefire? Do you propose to keep fighting?
We are ready to resist.
Do you think there will be peace?
Many countries gave us 3 days.
President Trump said you don't have any cards.
We do not have another choice.
How do you keep fighting?
You ask me once again the same question.
Because you've not answered my question.
We have enough capacities to keep fighting.
But you're losing. What a bunch of idiots. We can't win, but we're going to keep playing. And it's expensive and it costs a lot of lives. France did something to Tesla. Where's that? They're boycotting Tesla. So if you own Tesla stock, you ask me profit. Yeah, I wouldn't be buying it. All right, let's see what this is. Vanished gold, the Bank of England.
Imagine, if you will, a vast wealth of gold reserves sitting safely in the vaults of a nation, a treasure representing years of prosperity and economic stability. Now,
I'm not sure I didn't like
gold,
this one.
the very lifeblood of that nation's financial security, seemingly vanishes, casting a shadow of mystery over its disappearance. Today, we explore the fascinating story of how the Bank of England, a stalwart institution of financial governance, came to be embroiled in the theft of an entire nation's gold reserves. This documentary takes us back in time
George
to an event
Soros.
that stands as a significant moment in financial history. We delve into the role played by one of the world's oldest and most influential banks, the Bank of England, in this audacious act. Established in 1694, the Bank of England holds a pivotal place in the economic life of the United Kingdom. Its primary responsibilities include managing the nation's monetary policy, issuing currency, and securely holding the gold reserves of various countries. It is a symbol of trust and stability. So how could it find itself at the center of such a scandalous affair? To understand this mystery, we must first look at the backdrop against which these events unfolded. Bank of England, since its founding, has served as the cornerstone of the UK's economic framework. Its vaults have safeguarded not only British gold, but also the gold reserves of allied nations, especially during turbulent times of war and economic uncertainty. This trust placed in the Bank of England was built over centuries, rooted in its capability to protect and manage wealth. The narrative begins with a series of fateful decisions taken amidst a volatile political landscape. As tensions mounted across Europe, with war clouds looming ominously, many nations feared for the security of their national treasures. During these precarious times, several governments turned to the Bank of England, believing that their gold reserves would be safe in the institution's impregnable vaults. The transfer of these reserves was a strategic move intended to preserve national wealth from the ravages of war. However, this decision,
This
which
was World War
at the
II.
time, laid the groundwork for what would become a monumental financial scandal. Critics argue that it was not just the threat of external conflict that endangered these gold reserves, but also a series of misjudgments and clandestine operations within the echelons of power. Key figures, both within the bank and the government, became embroiled in a complex web of decisions that led to the gold's removal. Political motivations, economic pressures, and perhaps even personal ambitions all played roles in a decision-making process that ultimately spiraled out of control. These were not smooth waters to navigate. The period following the gold's disappearance was fraught with conflict and challenges. Public dissent grew as the populace, already weary from economic instability, began to question the motives and actions of those in charge. Political backlash ensued, with calls for accountability and transparency echoing through the halls of power. Amidst this uproar, the bank faced immense pressure to maintain financial stability, a task made more difficult by the mounting crisis of confidence. In the face of such adversity, how did the institution respond? Efforts were made to resolve the situation, though not without difficulty. An intricate
intricate dance ensued to restore trust, a concerted push to establish measures that would prevent a recurrence of such events. These included reforms aimed at increasing transparency and securing the integrity of national wealth management. Ongoing efforts sought to rebuild the trust that had been so severely undermined. As our tale draws to a close, we reflect on the impact of this incident. The Bank of England, despite its attempts to rectify the situation, could not escape unscathed. Theft of an entire nation's gold reserves left an indelible mark on the public's perception of the institution. This historical event holds profound implications for how national wealth is managed and protected, serving as a cautionary tale about the necessity of vigilance and accountability in financial governance. Before we part, we encourage you to delve deeper into the history of the Bank of England and its practices, understanding...
No, they didn't say what the hell it was. That's probably why I didn't... Avoid this guy, Paul Krugman. He's a communist. I'm not going to waste our time with it. And avoid this guy, Wolf. This guy Wolf he's a communist. These Keynesians get on there, and I don't know why. Anyway, I think that's about it. See, then Andy Shackman says this $1,500 price, but until COMEX is broken up, it's not going to happen. All right, let's check our gold price. Gold 3016, so it's straight 3016. Silver 3362. Silver went down a little. Gold's dancing around there, but it's still, it's not going anywhere. Once it hit 3,000, it's just got to reshape. So 3016, we'll see 31 hopefully by Friday on the 3,500, because it's really hard to do a derivative short it, because you got to settle. The buyer is going to want physical gold, which you don't have. So it's very hard to do a derivative. It's very hard to sell short your derivatives on gold, because then you're going to have to find the physical to cover it, which you can't do because it's just about gone. Same thing with silver. So silver 33.62. We need 35. Once we hit 35, I think we go to 50. That's coming soon. These tariffs are just creating chaos, as you see countries staying away from our food at the grocery stores and cars and stuff. They're countering back with their tariffs, which is making things more expensive. And as you know, if you try to sell something higher than the market, you're not going to sell it, which is either going to put companies out of business, or they're going to lose money because they can't cover their costs. They're going to go down. And so how does a company recover, right? So if I got to pay 20% more in taxes, how do I stay in business? Well, I got to raise my prices. No, I can't. The market won't buy it. I got to lay people off. I got to find other ways to cut my cost. That's why it's very dangerous. So you're going to see a lot of companies going out, which is going to create unemployment because people won't have jobs to work at because they're not making money. And then you're going to see and more people on unemployment and just less taxes going in. And we're basically fucked. And this is our little depression here. Thanks to Trump's tariffs as a way to get out. Well, this all goes back to the debt. He never did anything with the debt. When he was president, and Biden let it really run. So basically, Soros trying to kill bankrupt the U.S. is doing a good job. He did it to England, and he's doing it here. And you put Soros guy in as your Treasury Secretary, you got to be out of your fucking mind. So who's still running the country? Yeah, George Soros. Anyway, it's not good. The economy's bad, and this is why you must have gold, because at least gold will balance it. The dollar's going out is worth less. Then here comes gold going up, because as people discover the dollar's losing value, you're only like boats, gold and silver. And again, we don't look at COMEX as the real price of gold and silver. It's the price that it is, but it's so low that everybody's buying it. So you're creating this huge demand, because here's the demand for gold and silver, and here's the price. And so everybody's buying it because of that. And don't let this fool you. This is a paper price. This is not the real free market price of gold and silver, which is up here. So that's why I tell you buy, because you can buy it here, but it's worth this. And then you're going to make all that. In silver, it's 1,000 an ounce, I figure. In gold, it's probably at least 20,000 an ounce. And then once all the people swarm in from all the other countries who are doing the same fucking thing, and they're all hurting, they're ruining their monies. They're all bankrupt. All these countries are bankrupt. So as more and more countries are bankrupt, your only hope is gold and silver, because that's the only real money. And you can't. We'll print a euro two. Well, what good's the euro two going to be? That's not going to be worth anything. We'll do the U.S. dollar number two. That won't be worth anything. But ain't backed by gold, it's worthless. It's worthless now. So just be careful with that. Basketball, I'll repeat it tomorrow. I like BYU plus 5.5, Florida minus 6.5. Duke minus 9.5, and Texas Tech over 148.5. And we'll look at Friday's games later. Gold 30.16, silver 30.64. 140. I'm off to the I'll have a little lunch and off to the pool. And that's about it. So keep that in mind. The tariffs are not good for the economy. I think Trump thinks he's going to pay off the debt with them. I don't even know what Trump is thinking. You got a $37 trillion debt. You're not paying it off. I don't care who you are, what you are. You're not paying off $37 trillion debt unless you have gold, and you got to revalue gold at 100,000 an ounce. But you got to have the gold to do it, which we don't. So our basic problem is we don't have any assets because the dollar's worthless. So you're bankrupt, and then Wall Street wants to keep selling you 401ks, even though they're not worth anything. So you got 500,000 in your 401k. It's not worth anything. You got all these countries then hurting the economy, which is going to hurt the stock market. And there's people that are pulling their money out of the stock market. All the foreigners are starting to pull their money out of stocks and banks, which is only going to make them go down. Be very careful what you do with your stocks. Be prepared. They're not going up because I just gave you 15 videos where the economy is going down, right? So if the economy is going down, how are you going to why would your stock go up? Why would Amazon go up if the economy is in the toilet? Less people have less money to buy, so they won't. So Amazon will hurt. I don't know how Amazon makes money. Their goods are cheap, but then they got to ship them to you. So I bought some conditioner yesterday. I went to Target. And then I wanted some shower gel, which I like, which I couldn't find at Target. Well, maybe I'll get it through Amazon. The problem is the shipping cost is going to blow you out of the water. So it's probably at Walmart, or it'll be at Myers or something. I'll check and I'll go buy it there. But you know, to go to Amazon to buy, I think that's just stupid. I don't understand, because you got the shipping, and if you join Amazon Prime, then you're paying a fee. You might as well just go to the other one. What is it? The the wholesale store. I can't think of it, but that's where you're at. So why would you think your stocks are going to do better? So if your stock's 500,000 in your 401k, you think it's going up or down? And if it's going up, you better explain it to me, because the only way you go up is if revenues increase and profits increase, and they're not going to do that. Not in this type of economy. The only thing going up is gold and silver. And that's it. And this one guy who's looking at a gold chart, I'm going to sell my gold now. Okay, what are you going to buy? Stocks? And do you understand what BRICS is? Do you understand what's going on? So I was watching that, and I was like throwing up, going, this guy's an idiot. This is what I try to warn you about in the beginning. These technical analysis, looking at a chart for 20 years going, oh, well, gold's up here, now it's going to start dropping. Well, that's not the reason gold goes down. Gold doesn't go down because of a chart, because it went up. It's going up because BRICS is buying it. That's why it's going up. And then the Basel III, which took place last year, and it's gone up $1,000 since Basel III, because they have to cover in gold. People taking delivery in gold, they have to come up with it. It means they have to buy it at a higher cost. And it's just about sold out. Everybody realizes with BRICS that they need gold because they don't want to hold dollars. So they're all dumping their dollars and buying gold with it. Whereas, as Alligator likes to say, oh no, people are they're not buying gold, they're selling dollars. Well, yeah, but they're taking the dollars that they're selling and buying gold with it. It's like saying, well, I'm not really going to the grocery store for food. I'm selling my dollars. I'm not going to the grocery store. Anyway, you want free markets, and we're not getting that. We're getting tariffs. We're getting protectionism. All this is extremely bad. How a country should work, and I've told you that. Free trade, gold standard, low taxes, low government, and a small military that defends the borders, not that goes out. So this is the problem. We're kind of having low taxes, but we don't have free trade, and we don't have a gold standard, and the dollar and the country's collapsing that's if that's all you need, and why can't you follow these 5 simple things is beyond me. And the reason you want small government is because you can't afford it. How do I pay the government? Supposedly with tax money. Well, before 1913, I didn't have income tax. How did you pay then? We had a very small government, and you paid whatever. I don't know how they paid it, probably tariffs, but small tariffs. Anyway, that's the thing. But as the government grows, you can't afford to pay it. Just like the debt, you can't afford 37 trillion in interest payments. So you got 37 trillion you got to pay off, but you got 7 trillion in interest this year. How are you going to pay it? With what? Oh, we'll print the money. Yeah, that'll make your money worth nothing. It already is worth nothing. And who's going to take it? So China and Japan are now just selling out of their dollars, out of the T-bills that they bought, and buying gold with it. And that's why you can't have big government, because how do you pay it? And plus you're paying pension, plus you're paying you're paying their salaries, and then you're paying their pensions too. I was watching yesterday, this woman is finally retiring from the Treasury, the Mint, the U.S. Mint. That's why you couldn't get U.S. silver, because the Mint wasn't printing it. I don't know if you were trying to do that in the last few years, the U.S. didn't print enough because they were stealing it. So they had this woman who was an HR manager who knew nothing as that, but Janet Yellen told her to do this and that, and so all the silver that was coming in, they were stealing it out the back door. Yellen and of course Biden and I'm sure Clinton and all these other idiots, Obama, Soros probably led the gang, and so that's why they didn't make silver rounds or silver 1 ounce silver, because they didn't have the silver rounds to produce it, which is illegal because you have to have it. But because the lady didn't know what she was doing, she's an HR manager running the mint. That'd be like me running, some engineering study or something. I wouldn't know how to do it. So she apparently retired, making $170,000, where she was not qualified to even do anything there. But it was just terrible. And, what are you going to do? They stole that. Well, they've stolen everything. It's all it was a free for all with Biden. Everybody's stealing everything, insider trading, stealing silver and gold, stealing everything. But what's the point? It's already over with. It's like Doggy finding all these things with Musk. Okay, U.S. aid. Well, what's it do? It's already gone. So you can stop it this year in your budget, but if they stole $10 million, they've stolen it. It's gone. You can't get it back. Maybe they can. I don't know. Depends what country it's in. But this is how corrupt the government is. So what do you want me to do with the corrupt government? Well, give me gold and silver. So we will see. But that's where we're at. So football news: Russell Wilson signs with the New York Giants, and we're waiting on Rodgers. And Cam Ward is a terrible first pick. He's not it, and Prime Jr. is not it. Dylan Gabriel is it, and they're missing the point on him. I don't know what's wrong with him. Will Howard, Ohio State, probably a third-round pick that he might be like Brock Purdy. He's a good quarterback at Kansas State, better than at Ohio State. You've got the kid from Indiana who was at Ohio who was pretty good. They had a lot of big scoring games there. And the kid from Texas State, McLeod, is really good. And the kid from North Texas is really good. Those would be those two guys could start as well as Dylan Gabriel. Will Howard, maybe he's a Brock Purdy, but they're just forgetting him. Cam Ward is not a number one pick. He'll be like Bryce Young. You'll go, why the hell did we draft him? Or Daniel Jones, or Trey Lance, or Richardson. Where in God's name are you coming up with these guys with the first pick in the draft? At what point did you see them in college do anything? Because I didn't. Trey Lance played 1 year as a freshman, and that was it. And Richardson did nothing at Florida. And the same thing here. Cam Ward did nothing at Washington State. But let's forget about that. And unfortunately, Cam Rising and Van Dyke are injured. So those are two superstars, or at least Cam Rising would have been if you ever could stay healthy enough. And then you have a few other good ones, but to make Ward number one and Prime Jr. number two, you got to be kidding. And if you think that guy from Colorado, the two-way player, is going to be anything, you're out of your mind. First of all, you don't draft a receiver or a cornerback with the second, third, or fourth pick, whatever they're going to do. But this is not a year to grab a corner. If I have the one pick, Tennessee, I'm trading it for, and I'll get Gabriel in the second round or late first. Don't understand why he's there. Oh, he's too small. Oh, yeah, so is Drew Brees and Warren Moon. They were too small too. I hate that argument, and why it's still used, I don't know. So anyway, college basketball starts back up tomorrow, We got Duke in Florida and Alabama, Texas Tech in the games tomorrow. And then we got Friday, and then we'll be down to so we got 4 games Thursday, 4 games Friday, and then it'll be 2 games Saturday and 2 games Sunday, and then next week's the Final Four, then the championship, and then the Masters comes early April. So it'll be a fun couple of weeks. Again, Social Security, if you're just doing what I'm doing, direct deposit, you're just a guy that worked his whole life and now is getting some, you don't have to do anything. What Trump and Musk are going after are businesses, so keep that in mind. You don't have to worry about it. I might do a separate little class on that just because to help people, because I talk about so many things. You might not see it in here, but I think I'll just do a quick 5-minute. Social Security, you're fine. It's for businesses. Outside of that, don't know anything else. Profit, what's going on? What's going on in Canada? You guys just drinking Molson Canadians and what? Staying away from the American beer. You know what's funny about beer? 99% of it was made by Germans. Germans have a big passion for beer. They made Budweiser, they made Coors, they made Miller, they made almost all the beers, even probably Molson Canadian. All the beers that you know of were made by Germans. Just an interesting thought there. All right, I think that's it. See, today I didn't have any interference with the internet. So I don't know. I mean, most of the time it's like this and I can talk. Yesterday killed me too. So I didn't even come back because I said, well, I don't want to keep doing them and then they keep getting killed. Anyway, so that's what's going on there. So have a good day, everybody. www.teaserking.com if you want to email me. And that's about it. So gold sitting there between 30, basically 30.20 and 30.30 for now. I would expect tomorrow and Friday we might get into the 30. I think you'll see it 30.50, 30.75 because once it's crossed 30, it's now buy more. Again, the price is still, people will pay here and the price is still there, especially with silver. The silver price is a joke. But anyway, if you see guys saying sell gold, sell silver, they're out of their fucking minds. Just ignore them. That's why I try to warn you about some of these guys. They don't know what they're talking about. Rickards, Andy Scheckman, I don't know what he's doing. And that's why we tend to watch Mark McGuire and Egon. Those are really the two you should kind of follow. All right. Well, have a good day, everybody. Again, www.teaserking.com. I gave you gold and again, BYU plus 5.5, Florida minus 6.5, Duke minus 9.5, Texas Tech over 148 in tomorrow's NCAA games. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Relax, stay calm. Buy your gold and silver. You'll be fine. All right. Take care.